Hi, in this episode I'll be talking to the founder of the Girls That Scuba network, Sarah Richard. Over at BREW, Sarah talks about what inspired her to start the movement, how it unifies women and gives them a safe forum to talk about issues that affect them in diving. She goes on to discuss how her life of adventure spent travelling to far-flung destinations and how we could do our bit to reduce the waste and purchase of single-use plastics. Do you fancy a brew?
Hello.
I forgot to get my headphones. One sec.
I don't usually have headphones actually, but
Have you got a proper microphone on here?
No. Do I sound like I've got a proper microphone?
No.
I'm that clear. No, it's just because I live in where I'm at the country and there's loads of background noise, so it's just better on earphones.
Yeah. Nice one. Nice advert there.
Huh? No, oh, what, my top?
Nice advert, yeah.
I know.
So,
I genuinely did just put it on because I've got no other tops.
Well, I almost thought, my wife's got one of your t-shirts, I thought, shall I put it on as well? I should have, I've literally just run upstairs, we've just had dinner, so I've put a load of washing in, done the dishwasher, unstacked it, stacked it, made a quick brew, and run up here. I thought, I'll be late, and then literally sat down 2 seconds ago, hence I forgot my headphones, so I've got...
Wow, you've done a lot in the last hour.
Well, you've got to do your bit, haven't you?
Right, let's jump straight into it then. So what do you reckon to the episode with Grace? Because she's easily well and above got more sort of downloads and listens to than anybody else is.
Yeah, but it's because the dive industry is full of middle-aged men.
Yeah.
And just having anyone fresh on the scene is inspiring to a lot of people, because also a lot of the dive names have been going around for years now, the popular divers.
Yeah.
And I think it's just nice having someone fresh and someone young, and being so enthusiastic is something as adults we don't have as much of. When you're 16, 17 and you're I'm going to take over the world. And I feel like Grace, her vibe brings that off. So I think that's probably why.
I mean, my sister-in-law, who's she used to be a tabloid journalist and now she works for ITV. She's not a diver, never been interested in the water, but has listened to all mine. She's been quite enthusiastic, helping me sometimes, ask the right questions and maybe more pertinent questions. And she was the same. She said exactly the same about Grace's. It was just that she just came across throughout the interview. She got better and better and more open to chatting. We had obviously quite a bit in common, even though I'm old enough, but I've got kids the same age as her, so.
Well, I thought it was really good when she was talking about being on the stage at Go Dive Show with us in February, and she was oh, I was really nervous, but I knew she was nervous because we spoke about it, but she was so confident on stage, and I was looking at her and I was just in 10 years time, you are going to be so far above all of your school friends and stuff. Yeah, because she just got something inside of her, and so
I think
going.
You said something earlier about it's the same old, and let's say middle-aged men. I'm in that now. Horrendous. But they are everywhere. You go to the Go Dive shows or you watch anything on Instagram or the telly now, it's the same old faces, isn't it? And yeah, it's kind of when is anyone else going to get a chance?
Well, that's pretty much what we represent in Girls That Scuba, is that we are a community of scuba divers, not there to talk about how deep you've been, how many cert cards you've got, or how much you spend on gear or anything like that. It's more about the lifestyle of scuba diving and actually how fun it is, because I feel sometimes you can have a whole conversation with a diver and they won't even mention that they had fun. It would be oh yeah, I went to this step and I was wearing these, and they talk so much about what they feel you want to hear.
I get you. And
not about oh my god, I had the best time of my life. Don't you think scuba diving is just amazing? I just feel not enough people, you're right, as you say, talk about their story or about why we scuba dive and the way it makes us feel. And that's kind of what we represent in Girls That Scuba. We're making an open dialogue and an open conversation about things that don't have to be so serious.
Yeah. That was what inspired me last year to start a YouTube channel. My hairdresser, Andrea, I've been chatting to her every time I go in. You know what hairdressers like? They just want to chat forever, don't they? So having a brew, having a haircut and that. And she's like, Andy, you're so enthusiastic about diving. And she's been cutting for 10 years. I'll only go into her for about a year, but for 10 years previous to that, the woman who initially taught me to dive never talks about diving at all. So she goes, in 1 year, I've probably learned more off you than I have in 10 years off this other lady. Now, maybe because the other lady's just sick of talking. She's been diving forever. I don't know. But so I kind of thought, well, you know, I like talking about diving. Let's go and do some diving videos and whatever. And it kind of grew.
Yeah, definitely.
So I've made, although I'm on the wrong page for you, because that's horrendous of me, but I've made quite a few notes. Obviously, I don't know you too well, but I've tried to study a little bit over the weekend and ask a few questions of people that might know you. Have you been busy today then?
Have I been busy today? Yeah, it's weird because I feel like I'm never busy, but I'm always just sitting on my laptop.
Yeah.
So I'm always doing so much stuff, but because I've only sat in one place, I feel like I'm not busy because I'm a real outdoorsy kind of like do stuff person. So if it was like the weekend, I could be like, yeah, went there, did that. But yeah, just sitting on my laptop. But yeah, probably.
Started at 9 o'clock, and before you know it, it's 3:30 in the afternoon. You're going, I've only checked about 3 emails, but I've been scoping this, doing that, and faffing about this.
Well, I'm a really late riser. I literally wake up at like 10, and then I will start working around 12, and I prefer I'm like get more inspiration at night for some reason. So I'm like more motivated at night.
I wish I'm very much like you, very much like a night owl. And my missus is an early bird, so she wants to get up, get on a bike at 6 o'clock in the morning, go and do an hour on a cycling round. I wish I could. Right. I just can't. I'll roll over, go through Facebook for an hour quite happily.
Yeah.
And then roll over again.
The only time I do is when I'm diving. When it's like when I'm on a liverboard and like 6 a.m. I'm like, I don't care. Like I will get up at 6 a.m. for any dive. But
right. So if you want to give a little bit of an intro to who you are, what you're up to, and then we'll see how it flows from there. Then.
Okay. My name is Sarah Richard. I am the founder of Girls That Scuba, which is now the world's largest female dive community. You can probably tell by my accent, but I'm from the UK.
No.
Although I don't spend much time here at all. And yeah, I started Girls That Scuba for many reasons, which I'm sure you'll probably ask some questions about, so we can add on to that later. I'm also the founder of A Waste-Free World, which is a plastic and a waste-free online shop, which was developed because of everything that I saw in the ocean, unfortunately, all of the waste and plastic I saw in the ocean. So I developed that plastic-free shop. And other than that, I'm a dive master. I've been diving for like 12 years, and obviously I love everything about scuba diving.
So how long have you been out the water? What's your surface interval? Have you any idea in days?
So long. I don't have a clue in days, but honestly, it's so long. It's probably my last dive trip was January the 26th. So because we had so many dive trips planned that all got cancelled. So if I would be on one now if it hadn't been cancelled. But it's been
me too. I was supposed to fly out to Croatia this morning.
Oh no!
Devastated.
Oh, gutted.
And it'd have been amazing, that, wouldn't it? But well.
I'm sure they'll be able to do it again, though, won't they?
I'm hoping to. But you just got to wait till the time's right, haven't you? And do what you can when you can. So I think I'm probably well over 100 days now. It's certainly somewhere in February last time I dived. The first time I'd ever come across you personally, was at the Go Dive 2020. I seen your stall, and when you interviewed the three girls, May Doricott, let's see how good I am at names now. I'm not written them down, I promise. There's May Doricott. Obviously, Grace Westgarth. Oh, come on, who's the one? Inca Cresswell, that's it. And then I kind of got reintroduced to them by listening to the Big Scuba podcast with Ian and Gemma. So that's kind of where it spiraled then. I had come across the hashtag on Instagram. I didn't know anything about it other than that. So it was quite inspiring to see that girls are doing what they're doing. But I genuinely didn't realise there was a need for that. Perhaps because I'm quite an all-inclusive person. I don't really mind what people get up to, as long as it doesn't affect what I'm doing in a negative way. Do what you want, whoever you are, wherever you're from, whatever the score. So speaking to Vicky initially, it was like guest number 5, I think, and then moving on, speaking to Grace, I kind of saw there was more of a need for it. But what was the need that you sort of came across to start Girls That Scuba?
I think you're right, and like what you say, as like personally, like you're a like inclusive person and you don't notice like a you know, like inequality in gender in the dive industry. And for many people, like that's a similar situation. And, you know, it's great. And most people don't think that women can't still do all of the things that men can do, but there is still quite a large percentage of kind of male dominated areas in scuba diving, probably the best thing to say. But then overall in scuba diving as well, it is still male dominated. I mean, all we can really go from is like PADI statistics, being the largest certification agency, and they released statistics a couple of years ago, and it was from professional above, so dive master and above, but it was like 70% male.
Right.
So, you know, like the facts are kind of in those numbers as well. And while I kind of like to think that was a couple of years ago, and it's kind of balanced out a little bit more now. And we are talking about professional above, so there's still the recreational, just like holiday divers and stuff. But for me personally, like the reason why I wanted to start something and why I saw it is because I used to work in Truck Lagoon in Micronesia, which many people know as like the wreck diving capital of the world. Many people dream to go there and dive all the wrecks and everything. And so I used to work there as a dive master, and I was the only female member of staff like on the whole boat. So it was like there was like a tech diver and like the captain and then dive master. So there was probably like 7 male staff, and then it was me. And up until then, I hadn't realized that there was like a man's club in diving. And then when I started working there, it really came to light. And I kind of just thought like, well, where are all the girls at, you know? Like, I mean, I was kind of thinking like, hey, well, like, because it was a liveaboard, so people would come from all over the world, guests, you know, and they would charter the whole liveaboard. So sometimes you'd have like 20 guests at once, and week on, week off. And it was always guys that came. And I was thinking like, why don't they bring their wives or their girlfriends or their sisters or their daughters or like any female acquaintance? Like, why aren't they bringing those?
Yeah.
Like, where are the girls at? Like, why aren't the girls diving? And I would like talk to them and just be like, oh, where's your wife? And they'd be like, well, at home. And it was almost like there was this like, oh, the men go diving and the girls stay at home.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, oh, that's a bit weird, you know. And then from not having like a female colleague as well on the boat, like it just started to get sexist. And you know, all of the guests on board would like, one of the guests said to me, like, asked me if I was the masseuse, and like I was like, no dude, like I'm taking you down to 55 meters, so you want to listen to me? You know, like I'm a dive master, and just kind of laughed and shrugged it off. And it was kind of there and then that I kind of thought like, well, we need to, if there's a man's club, then let's start this girls club. And just to really see if I could find like more women that were passionate about scuba diving as I was. And you know, it was the time where like Facebook groups really started becoming a thing. So I just like looked online, and there wasn't really anything. And again, like what we were talking about earlier, is some of the kind of like female dive names and the female like women that people look up to were all like a little bit older. And I was kind of thinking that at the time I was like 27, like where I want to, you know, where are the girls my age? So I basically just started it myself because I couldn't find anything. And kind of the story of really how it began, but also the story of like how I realized in different parts of the world, it is still very male dominated.
Certainly, if I was to go to my local dive site at the weekend, it's easily got to be a 1 to 9 ratio of men and women.
Yeah.
Easy, if not greater than that. But then the liveaboard that we did in the Red Sea last year, it was kind of, if you split the boat into 2 halves, there was our group and a group from Australia. And the group from Australia was a 50-50 mix. There was wives, husbands, friends, and they were all from a local dive shop. And they were all just a bunch of friends, but it was a 50-50 split. Whereas on our side, out of like 10 lads, there was 2 women. One was my wife. And I remember asking, I might edit this bit out because I know the lad's going to listen. But when I asked him, and I said, am I all right bringing my wife, like? And he went, if you think she can handle it. Now, I know what he meant by that. He meant, because we were all military, if she could handle the banter. He didn't mean if she can handle the diving. And she's a really good diver.
Right.
But if I wasn't that way, I might have misconstrued that. Do you know what I mean?
And imagine if you were a woman and you heard that, like you'd automatically not feel welcome in the dive industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's still that kind of like, it is still there, basically. Like there is still this boys club mentality in diving.
I think though, between, how can I word this? So like Ali, my wife, when she came, she can hold her own. You know, she can have the banter. She can do all her own kit. She doesn't sort of look for help. And I think some girls can do that. You know, they're quite happy to be helped by a man. And then, you know, kind of complain about it in the background. Do you know where I'm coming from with that? Whereas Ali, she'll stand up for herself. You know, she'll do all her own stuff. So I can kind of see why men might think, oh, look at her, she's fluttering her eyelids again. I'm not saying I agree with that at all. What I'm getting at is I can see that happens and goes on, which is why perhaps there might be eyes in that direction. Do you see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, but you make sense. I understand what you're saying, but I don't feel like there should be a mold for how all women should be.
I agree with that,
like
totally.
Female diver.
Yeah.
So, like, actually, it doesn't matter if, like, this is what everybody needs to kind of get into their heads. Doesn't matter what gender they are. If you need help, you need help, and that doesn't matter about if you're a man or a girl. You could be.
I was going to say, 100%. There was a bloke on that dive or on that boat that week that his kit and prep was horrendous. He needed 3 dive guides on him, you know, setting his kit up. Whereas certainly the 2 women on our group. So there's a friend who we're now friends with, and she was the same as Ali. You know, held her own, did all her own stuff, and was just another diver. Just happened to be a female. And I think that's exactly how you should be viewed. But other people, whether they be male or female, are weaker in different areas, aren't they? Whether it be kit preparation or their own training and stuff. So I've seen it too often now on dive sites where people do just judge a book by its cover, and I think that is wrong. But equally, I think some people are way beyond that, and some people are even lower than that. So there's a certain amount.
Yeah, and it does go beyond gender as well. It's like easy to kind of categorize, like to say, like, oh yeah, maybe you feel like this because you're a woman, or maybe you feel like this because you're a man. I just feel like there is this kind of like underlying judgment sometimes in diving, that it's like you're not doing something the way that maybe that person's been taught. And while there is like a standard way that everyone's been taught, there's so many different kind of like ways that people do stuff, and that kind of underlying judgment is just something that we're kind of trying to just phase away. That you can, if you're a scuba diver, like you're one of us, you're in it with us, and like let's do this together. And you know, like maybe you're configuring your kit like that, and I'll be like, oh, that's actually differently from how I've been taught. And you want to be able to have that open communication. If I was saying that to you, and you'd be like, oh, actually, your way makes sense, and so does mine. So let's kind of learn from each other rather
it's
than
kind of about how you ask the question, isn't it? If you go, oh, can you show me that? Because I've never seen that before. But if you go over, what are you doing like that for? I'd probably be a little bit standoffish. And I certainly agree with you on that point, that a lot of the Facebook groups that I go on just to sort of troll through, and not so much be trolling people, just, you know, scroll through and have a look. So many people with so many opinions that, and I'll be honest, if 100% of them are not blokes, I'll be shocked. Oh well, I'm not going to slag us all off. We're not all the same.
And there also are women out there that, you know, are definitely not as supportive as well. But, you know, I think in general, like, yes, we're Girls That Scuba. Yes, we're here to empower women and raise women up. But, like, we're also here to just, like, make this a more fun, inclusive community of scuba divers.
That's a big thing to take away from this, is that we just all need to be slightly more inclusive of everybody. You know, whether you dive with split fins, which is always a big thing, isn't it? People get grief. Or if you've got a clear mask or whatever it is, you know, just let them do what they want to do. That's perhaps they got given them because they couldn't afford a set, but they're actually going diving. So,
exactly.
So the Huffington Post has put you in the top 10 of women showing the world how it's done. What's your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on that is I used to work in media. I used to work, so I know some people.
That's amazing.
I know who wrote it. Yeah, I know who wrote it. So, and she actually asked me for like who else I would kind of like put on this list. So
that's brilliant.
Yeah, but no, it is amazing. Of course it is. But...
Well, it's good to just get noticed for doing something positive, if nothing else, isn't it? You don't perhaps need a gold medal and a star, but if someone recognises you doing something positive and there is a real positive outcome for a lot more people than just you, happy days, isn't it?
And actually, like I've used my media background to get more promotion for Girls That Scuba. I don't want the promotion myself, because Girls That Scuba are a community and we represent women in diving. So, you know, any kind of promotion that we can get for women in diving is not me or anyone that works with us. It represents the whole kind of like female community. So it's still very much needed.
Well, it's another tool in your box that you can use to make a bigger stance, isn't it? If you've got those contacts, or you've got those skills from working in media, you'd be stupid not to, wouldn't you?
And that's another thing. I get some younger girls or guys or whatever ask, like, you know, how did you get Girls That Scuba to where it is now? And like, I think the number one thing is like contacts. Like, when somebody asks you, like, do you want to come on the podcast, or do you want to like be interviewed, or like, do you want to do this? Like just, if you have the time, like, yes, like just try to connect with everybody in your industry. And it's nice as well, because you make friends, and as an adult it's not as easy to make friends. But when you have a small community like this, you know, you can reach out to people and make connections, make contacts is like my number one piece of advice for anyone that wants to do something in dive media.
I've said that a few times since starting these podcasts to a few different guests, that short of being in the army for as long as I was, the diving community is my second biggest group of contacts and networks. You know, I've met so many people, and like I said a few times, perhaps not so much to you because of what you do, but if nothing comes of this conversation of me and you doing this now, I've got one more person that I can contact next time I'm in your neck of the woods, and perhaps go diving with. And you know, there's a lot to be said
a friendly face. Like sometimes, like it's hard. It's hard to like mix with people sometimes, and when you're at like a dive show or something and there's like thousands of people, like to see a friendly face in the like crowd, you're like, hey.
Yeah, definitely. Always works nice, that, doesn't it? So take us back to the beginning then. How did you get into diving?
I got into diving because I went on holiday to the Maldives when I was 19. I was very lucky, and there was nothing else to do.
I've just turned 40. I've not been Maldives once.
Do you know how I did it? I used to work in a bank when I was younger.
Yeah.
I didn't go to university or anything. Like I dropped out of college, didn't go to university. I wanted to just get a job so I could travel, like save money to travel. And I used to live with my parents at the time, and they just didn't charge me much at all. And I literally saved all of my money to travel. That's all I wanted to do. And then it actually wasn't too expensive. Like this was like 12 years ago. And so I got like a really cheap place to go to the Maldives, and the flights in the UK aren't too bad. And so I went, and there isn't that much to do. It's beautiful, but as for a 19-year-old, like it's just for me in general, I always like seeking adventure. Yeah. And I like literally like walked past the dive shop, and like the guy was like, "Hi, do you want to come diving?" And I was like, "Okay." Like, I didn't know anything about it. Yeah. You know, I obviously always loved the ocean and swimming and everything, but I didn't know anything about scuba diving. And he basically like, you know, just changed everything for me in a matter of like minutes. And I did like a discovery dive, and then that's it. I remember coming out and just being like, scuba diving needs to be a part of my life forever. And at 19 years old, that's like a revelation, because you don't want anything forever at 19, right? Yeah. So, and yeah, we're like 12 years now, and it's only got more, like my addiction.
I said that to Grace the other week. She's so lucky at her age, 17, 18 now, to actually have that goal and that focus. Because I was like you, left school, straight in a job, earning good money, and all I wanted to do was travel. I ended up with a girlfriend and 3 kids, and then a marriage that didn't work. You know, so it's quite hard that my late teens, early 20s, most of my 20s, because I wanted to do, and I probably would have ended up blokes at scuba. but that was kind of my plan. It wasn't scuba diving, it was going traveling, finish my apprenticeship and go.
Yeah.
And instead, I stuck around. I've been a great dad to my kids. My kids still have a lot to do with me. You know, they love me to bits. I love them. So I don't regret it in that respect, because I'm having my life now. Whereas people at my age are now having young kids.
you could give them that opportunity as well, you know.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I do also find actually, like, another thing as being like a female in diving is, you know, like same as you, like women will have kids and then they have to look after their kids, and then their body changes and their lives change, and although they love scuba diving, it's hard for them. This is not everyone, I'm not generalizing, it's just some, like they find it hard to get back into scuba diving. And I feel like the kind of the pressure as a woman to, you know, have a family and to get married and everything like that, it's quite easy to kind of buckle to, for sure. And like I kind of in my head was like, I don't even want to look at boys. I want to like go, I want to travel, I want to experience my life before, you know, before I settle down and have a family. And then as soon as I found scuba diving as well, it meant even more to me. So now I'm 31 and I you know, I don't have kids. I am getting married next year.
Was that a plan to get married next year? You not had to put it off for this year, have you?
Yeah, no, we got engaged last year, so yeah, it was always a plan. So luckily it didn't.
We were supposed to be at a wedding last weekend, Saturday just gone. They've put it back to next year. Unlucky.
Oh, it's such a shame, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's so hard for people.
My wife's in the same boat as you. She's a couple of years older than you, but you know, she's been a career woman. And then when we met 5 years ago and got married, she's like that spirit of adventure she's always wanted, but never been able to bring to fruition because of relationships or uni or career. And now she met me, who just wants to be out the house all the time. She's kind of like, I never really wanted a family, but kind of she's getting to that age where she needs to decide if she wants one or not. And I don't know which way it'll go. You know, I'm kind of open.
Well, yeah, there's so many pressures on women, you know, just in life in general. Which is again why having a community like Girls That Scuba is like just injecting the fun and the like adventurous side and you know, the empowerment and inspirational side into like a hobby. And you know, it's just these group of girls that I say group, there's like thousands,
40 odd thousand, isn't it? Yeah.
But it's something that we can all connect with, and you know, whatever's happening in our lives separate from scuba diving can kind of either come into it if it wants, or stay separate, and just being united by a hobby which is like really adventurous. It's just so cool.
I like I think it was it Vicky? Yeah, it was Vicky when we were talking about Girls at Scuba initially. She said some of the things that she couldn't ask blokes. I'd never even, like I said before, I'm just a bloke that's married to a woman. You know, I've got 3 daughters. They're all like 21, 20, 16.
Wow.
But I just go about my business. You know, I earn what I earn, put it into the pot. I go to have my dinner, I wash up or whatever, and I just get on with my life. So I don't think about other people so much. But Vicky was saying how you know, that community has bonded you all together in a safe place that you can ask questions that you couldn't perhaps go on your normal scuba divers, whatever, on Facebook and ask that question, because the fear of either someone thinks you're asking a stupid question. Well, maybe you're not. Maybe you're actually asking a question that's really important to you. But most of the blokes on there can't answer it. I couldn't answer it, you know.
Well, first of all, I call you out on that, and I call all the other blokes out on that, because I think it's important for blokes to understand that women do have separate needs in diving. And I'm only saying diving because we're on a scuba dive podcast, different needs and everything in life. But you know, it is important for men to understand that maybe a female doesn't feel comfortable asking you a question. To even understand that to begin with, like you start opening up to the different things. Like, men don't have periods. How the hell are you supposed to know if I can dive on my periods? You know, and without you just going like, oh, I don't know, like go and ask a female, you could learn, or you could understand. And I think it's important that guys understand the differences as well. You know, so
I can definitely come back a little bit with that. I know, because I seen a question was asked via my wife, obviously, knowing I was going to interview you. She'd seen a question on there. So she told me, I do know that it depends how you feel. If you want to go diving, you flipping can. It's just up to you, isn't it?
Of course. Yeah,
You know, if
but
you feel up to
you'd be surprised how many guys don't know the answer. Like anyone that's listening, that's a guy that wants to know if girls can scuba dive on their period, the answer is yes, because girls can do anything on their period.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't stop us doing anything we want to do. But you'd be surprised how many men don't know that. And let's just say you are a scuba dive instructor and you don't have any females in your dive center. Like, is that inclusive? Like, is that welcoming? You know, so it's just opening up these dialogues and these communications and these chats to just kind of change a few things in the industry.
I'll be honest, the club I'm at is definitely an all-inclusive club. So I've come through the BSAC sort of chain, you know. Excuse me. And even our chairwoman is a chairwoman. You know, she's the chair of BSAC as well. You know, so she's even more inclusive because she does this diving for all that the BSAC do. You know, for injured or disabled or unabled bodies to get in the water. But I think our treasurer is a woman, whereas our member secretary is a man. You know, the DO is a man, and such everybody else. There's plenty there, you know. So certainly, as a 50-50, quite balanced. If you were to walk in, you wouldn't feel, oh, that's just another room full of blokes. Whereas I have been to other places, and I do know exactly what you feel like in that respect. What you're talking, I don't know what you feel like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you were to walk in, it must be quite intimidating. It's bad enough not knowing anybody, but if everyone's slightly different to you because they're all blokes, it must be a little bit weird, this, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's, you know, I think, again, I've said it so many times, it's all just about this, like, talking about it, isn't it? And maybe, like, stuff like this, like podcasts and, like, YouTube and, like, Girls That Scuba community are, like, new places to kind of learn. And, yeah, I mean, we don't need to, like, also, it's about what we said before. It's, like, asking the question in the right way. Don't, like, not to be defensive if you don't know the answer. But I think our Facebook group in particular is kind of, it runs on, like, just openness and kindness. Yeah. And there's no need to kind of be judgy. So, yeah, it's like, well, I listened to your one with Vicky, and it's like, you know, Vicky and myself and Grace, and we represent, like, what Girls That Scuba is about, because I think you can see the, like, similarities in all of us. It's just actually just a passion.
Mm-hmm. Well, obviously, through interviewing the different people I have on here, I've started to see the world slightly differently, whether it be from a disabled person's point of view or perhaps more from a female's point of view. And I tell you what annoys me, that I found annoying more so, and I'm quite new to Instagram, only last year, is there's a lot of girls out there that are using the fact that they're a woman to sort of sell whatever it is they're selling. How do you feel about that? What's your stance on that? Do you feel that that's fair? Do you feel that that's right? Or it's just a nature of the beast? I'm not trying to compare it to Girls That Scuba.
I know, and I think it's a fair question, and it's a question that, like, we can all ask ourselves. I think in the end of the day, a woman's body can be used any way that she wants it to be used, and any way that she wants it to be displayed. You know, I think as a community, Girls That Scuba, and being in charge of the community, what the imagery that we try and put out is very, like, positive role model imagery. So it would be women of all shapes and sizes, women of all different colors and backgrounds. So that's something, like, we try to do. But, you know, like, if a woman wants to get her boobs out while scuba diving, like, I'm definitely not going to be the one to say that's wrong. I think it's more the Instagram culture rather than, like, dive culture, because at the end of the day, like, it's not a glamorous sport. We never look amazing, like, when we come out. But it's Instagram culture, isn't it? And it's like, it's girls getting their boobs out, but you know what, I would say embrace your body however it is.
I mean, I've seen more of that. I mean, like, on the telly and that, you know, with, like, Pretty Little Thing adverts and all these kind of stuff. It is encompassing everybody now. There's all that you could possibly imagine to see, rather than these wafer thin sort of stereotypical supermodel lookalikes, which, let's be honest, not everybody's like that, and not everyone's comfortable. So you just kind of push them that way to feel like you need. I
think we've still got a long way to go in media in general, showcasing females, and like I'm calling out the whole scuba dive industry, and I'm calling out ourselves, the Girls That Scuba, that we're not fit. There isn't enough women of color. There's not enough black girls that are scuba diving that are being featured. You know, it's still, I always used to say, and this is naive of me and something that I've learned recently, I always used to say scuba diving is a white man's sport, but scuba diving is a white people's sport. You know, like we need to be encouraging, featuring and raising up more women of color and people of color in diving as well. So there's so much, we've got so much further to go in like increase. Like we're talking about like a minority of a minority, and you know, this is a whole different conversation. But I think the scuba industry,
it's funny you say that, because obviously I've got like a list of people lined up for the next week or so for interviews, and you're right, there's not one person with a different colour skin than me, really. The only black scuba diver that I know is Lewis Hamilton, the racing car driver. Because I heard him on an interview last year that he'd taken up scuba diving.
I didn't know scuba diving. Cool.
Well, I don't know how much.
Awesome.
So whether I can get him on,
a shout out.
Mate, if I can get him on, that'd be amazing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But no, I think we all need to keep ourselves we need to be accountable for like making sure that we're being diverse. And you know, like I can definitely tell you a lot of black women to follow and to feature and to raise up.
That'd be great. Certainly, if you could put me in touch with someone. Maybe that'll lead on to someone else and someone else. So
definitely, and we can be the people that are starting to make the change, and we have to hold ourselves accountable that we're not doing a good enough job. And I think that as Girls That Scuba, like we have nearly 700,000 followers across our network, and we have a voice, and like we've created a platform that people will listen and you know, interact with, and it's a responsibility of ours definitely is to feature more people of color, and it's something that we're gonna like carry on with our long-term strategy. So yeah, I think talking about it and you know, telling each other about it as well is something important. Like
what I wonder though is there less women in the sport and less people of color in the sport just purely because that's the nature of the beast? You know, maybe not so many women are interested in it. Maybe not so many black or ethnic minorities are interested in it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard because it's so hard to say like a blanket statement, for instance, of like why more women aren't involved in diving. Because like also the problem is for us is we surround ourselves with divers. So like, you know, when personally myself, I am surrounded by female divers. So if I was to say like, you know, is there more men or women in diving? In my circle, there's more women, of course. Yeah. So it's very hard because we can't understand why everybody doesn't do it, and like anyone who should come to scuba diving. But it's sometimes I have to like take a look, and I'm like looking inside my own community, my own bubble, and they're all divers. And you just have to. And I think it's like Instagram and social media and this kind of stuff is really good for it because it can reach a wider audience, and it can reach like one of your friends or one of my friends listening that's not a diver could be like, I'm going to finally do what they keep chatting on about.
I mean, one of the main reasons I joined the army or other sort of groups that I've joined is to meet like-minded friends. So it might well be the case that, like you said, we might just reach out to one person that didn't have that friendship group that they could join. They might have had, because clearly it's an expensive sport, they might have a bit of surplus income to get into it, but they might not have had that one person to tag along with. So we might be that inspiration for that one person of whatever background.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm happy with that. If we achieve that, and I never know about it, but it actually happens, I'd be happy about it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, me too, definitely.
So you mentioned that you went out and you were working at Truck Lagoon. That's pretty all right as a job then. Yeah. How long were you out there?
Not too long actually, like 3 months. So it was kind of just seasonal, but it was long enough. I mean, you're diving every day.
Yeah. How did you end up landing that? That's a pretty all right job, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy because I like certified as a dive master, and like all I wanted to do was go and work as a dive master, like just get some experience and, you know, just dive in some amazing places. So I just went on like PADI Pro website, because when you're like a pro, you get to access their website and they have all the job listings, and like every single one as a dive master I just applied for. Like I didn't mind where I went, like what conditions it was, like I just wanted to get the experience of working. And I knew I wasn't going to earn loads of money or anything, but you know, I just wanted to get the experience. So this is like the only one that came back to me, and then they were just kind of like, yeah, they were like, you have to pay for your own flights, so if you can get over here, then you know the job's yours. And I was like, okay. And I had to like type in Truk Lagoon. I mean, if you don't, it's not somewhere unless you're a diver you really know where it is. And then I was like, Micronesia, and then it said like Federated State of Micronesia, and I was like, is it part of the US? You know? And it was like, you really had to do some research as to where it was. So it wasn't like, you know, it's like everyone I talked to, they're like, oh my God, this is like, you know, these wrecks are like some of the wrecks I've been dreaming of for life. And I was like, I didn't even know about these wrecks until I went there, but I learned so much. I learned so much. Yeah.
Wait, what kind of travel time is it over there? A few days to get there or something? Is it horrendous?
Yeah. I had to go to like Philippines, Manila in Philippines, and then I had to go hop over to somewhere else and then to get to Micronesia. So yeah, it's really hard to get to, and it's very, very expensive. Like the liveaboard's expensive, the flight's expensive.
I suppose if it's in the middle of nowhere, it costs a lot to get everything they need to get there. So it's kind of a knock-on effect in it of whatever. So where did you go when you finished that, career-wise?
So then I moved to Hong Kong. And I lived in Hong Kong for 2 years, and I worked as a magazine editor, which is predominantly where I got a lot of my experience in media and online media. And I mean, Hong Kong is the best city in the world. It's like, again, it's all about those connections. I would just do every single event, every single meetup, and network, meet people. And yeah, I got some amazing connections, and I landed like a amazing job. I was the editor of like food, drink and travel, so I basically got to eat amazing like Michelin star quality food, get drunk and go traveling and get paid to do it. And then on the side I would like do Girls That Scuba as well, and like I'd get to go to these amazing destinations and then just like hop on and do a dive like myself that day or whatever on my day off, and write about it for Girls That Scuba. So I was kind of building it up.
Wow, that's a mega. Did you pick up the lingo while you were there?
No. So it's like the English is like the second language, so they like speak really like fluent English around Hong Kong. So it's bad, isn't it? But like you didn't need to as much. Whereas like some countries you go to where they don't speak English at all, you're like more motivated to learn.
Yeah. What language were you when you were at Truk? What were they? Was it pretty English there?
No, well, they spoke English on the boat, of course, because they had to be like masters. But it's like Chuckese.
Right.
I don't know what like kind of like language it was altogether, but everyone on the boat spoke English. So
I suppose we are quite lucky, aren't we? Because the sort of international language of business is English. So
yeah, definitely.
You're pretty much, you can get away with it. But we've ummed and ahed about, you know, in the next sort of 10 years, do we sell up here and try and move somewhere? But the idea of trying to learn another language, I'm like, I haven't got enough time in the day. You know,
there's so many good apps you can do it on. Like Duolingo is amazing. Like, you can just learn like any language like on your phone. And I mean, you obviously have to have some brain power, but
well, honest, I think I'm struggling. I've been reading. Have you read Gareth Locke's book? It's called Under Pressure: Diving with Human Factors. So it's all about the psychology and stuff around why divers make mistakes. You know, and looking at it before it happens and training and stuff. And I've been trying to read it because I'm interviewing him next week, and it's so hard because I'm not an academic, you know, and I don't read a lot with my job. I run my own small business, so I don't have to do a lot of reading of technical manuals, and it does use big words, with like. I
know what you mean,
Whereas in there's quite a few case studies, you know, so stories that divers have told that then he breaks down why a certain scenario happened and why they did it wrong and what they could have done differently, and I quite find them interesting, and I can sort of pick, but only with hindsight, what they've done wrong and learn from that. But read the sort of the breakdown afterwards. I could just read 2 or 3 chapters and be like, I don't remember one word from the last paragraph I've just done. And it's
Yeah.
not, so I'm kind of nervous of interviewing him next week because I'm like, he's going to quiz me. He's already told me, you got to read that book and I'm going to quiz you. And I'm like, oh my God.
Has he not done like an ebook version?
Well, there's bits and bats about, of it, but there isn't so much one that you could just listen to, like you'd listen to a podcast.
Right.
But there is,
Yeah.
he's done plenty of talks and stuff. I've got a grasp of what's going on, but it's just written for someone perhaps that's not a thick Wiganer like me. So,
well, I think again, like you can talk to him about like people of all different like educational abilities and
absolutely,
because diving's a technical sport and not everybody can understand and digest information.
No.
So that's where it is hard.
Well, I interviewed Mark Powell last night, he wrote Decode for Divers and another technical diving for beginners or whatever. And I found that a difficult read, but because it was a means to an end, as in I was doing the course the following week, I kind of took a month to read it rather than just trying to cram read it in a weekend. And it did really sink in, and it was a cracking foundation for them when I started tech diving. So that did work for me, but it wasn't.
Mark has like done some amazing stuff, and he's a very he's a great guy, and I find him somebody quite easy to talk to and listen to because I can digest what he says a lot easier. So I think it's some people you can kind of like vibe with a bit better than others.
I think it was kind of written more for the layperson, wasn't it? That's the thing. Although it's a technical manual and it's kind of the go-to one now, it's not written for that level.
Mm-hmm.
So it read easier, and he was such a nice bloke to interview as well. He gives me loads of stuff.
He's so nice.
Yeah, but although I'd spoke to him before via Facebook, about courses and stuff, I've never met him or really had anything to do with him other than that. So much like you, really, I only kind of knew, other than I read 2 of his books, I only knew that about him. So it was a different interview, really. I look really sunburned on him. I think it's just the lighting. Maybe I'm nervous. Or it's warm. I think the heating's on, but anyway.
You don't look sunburned, don't worry.
Let's have a look here then. So you've got back from Micronesia. You've gone over to Hong Kong. You've done a bit of whining and dining, and then. So, what brought you back to the UK?
COVID. Honestly,
what from Hong Kong?
It's been a crazy ride.
So you've just finished...
So I'll condense those kind of years into one, but basically, I continued to travel, and because I could work online, I continued with doing work for other people, and then building Girls That Scuba as well. Yeah. So while I was doing that, I just kind of traveled around the world. I've been super lucky and visited a ton of countries and worked in different countries, and I'm quite used to just having my laptop and being able to work anywhere. So I managed to travel a lot, and through traveling again, met loads of people, made loads of contacts, and when they kind of settle in places, I settled in Dahab in Egypt for 8 months, and I'd kind of go to different places which I just had a good dive scene and had good Wi-Fi to work. And then I spent a lot of time in the Middle East actually, and I particularly fell in love with Jordan actually, and just my brother actually used to live there because he works for the UN, and he lived in Jordan, so he was predominantly the person that introduced me. And so I started spending a lot of time there, and I was down in Aqaba in the Red Sea. And while it's not like Egypt where you've got all those masses and masses of fish, but it's a cool place, and Jordan itself has got so much history, and I don't know, I've just always loved it. And so it's always been a kind of place on my radar. And eventually this year, I kind of made a decision to go and have Jordan as one of my stints of living somewhere. So I actually moved to Jordan this year. Earlier this year I moved, and I had some projects which I was starting up in Jordan to do with diving. And so I moved there, got an apartment, and then Corona happened. And I was kind of locked down in Jordan, not being able to dive, not being able to do what I wanted to do over there, not really understanding what was going on. Everything was in Arabic, and the kind of communication wasn't so great. And then, you know, everything, it just kind of felt like the right time that I really should return home to the UK. So I'm back in the UK, but I don't have anywhere to live. So I'm living with my boyfriend's parents. And all my dive stuff's in Jordan because I couldn't take it all with me. So yeah, that's why I'm back in the UK at the moment. So it's not really where I want to be, but it's where I have to be.
Do you find you get quite itchy feet then? You can't sort of stay in one place for too long?
Yeah. I mean, why should I? Like, the world's an amazing place, you know? Yeah, I do. I've got a very adventurous kind of spirit, and I love the opportunities that it brings, like when you're going to different places and meet new people. So yeah.
You're so lucky, honestly. I hope you understand just how lucky you are, because I think if I could have any time again, maybe the last 10 years, if I'd have known what I know now, over the trouble and strife I had in the last 10 years, I wish I'd have done it 20 years ago, let alone 10. But do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do feel like there's definitely been a certain amount of luck to it, but I think it's a lot of decisions I made along the way. You know, decisions not to do things or decisions to do things. And just a lot of it comes from kind of personal experience. Like, unfortunately, my mum passed away when I was 22. And when she passed away, I kind of she died very unexpectedly. And when she died, I kind of just got this feeling that like life was there to just be like really to be lived, and that everything I wanted to do, like to do it right now, because it can change at any time. So and that's kind of like kept me going for the last 10 years now, really.
I'm really hoping, Sarah, now you haven't sowed a seed in my head, because I'll sell my house tomorrow. I'll sell all my kit and equipment and I'll be off.
Yeah, I know. Usually, I mean, that's a lot of people want to do it. Yeah, it's the decisions you make, isn't it? I think that, there is some luck to it, but there is hard work as well. It's not always comfortable, I'll be honest. Like, it's not comfortable living in countries where you don't know the language and you don't know anyone. And
well, I saw one of your YouTube videos earlier about, you know, just as lockdown happened when you were in Jordan, and there's like alarms going off, and you're like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And so, what was the process in you getting back to the UK? Was that quite easy, or did you have to sort of wait some time with what was going on there?
Yeah, so we had to get a rescue flight put on by the UK embassy, and it kept getting cancelled, and you know, it was hard to get home, and it's very expensive. You know, like it basically made the whole the whole move to Jordan like not worthwhile. Like you know, like personally it was a disaster, and it was hard to get home, and and I didn't want to come home either. I wanted to do I had some projects that I really wanted to do in diving, but that's life.
I suppose without a bit of hardship and without something going wrong unexpectedly, whether it be one of your parents passing away or all this COVID jumping on everybody's bandwagon, it's ruined everyone's plans, hasn't it, for all of this year. Without that, you don't sort of take that step back and sort of hit reset or reevaluate what's better, or what, you know, you might, you know, 2021 might be the year of your life, because this has gone differently. You might now have a complete change of tack, and all of a sudden something completely out the blue hits you, and you go, wow, this is amazing. So it could be, I'm hoping for everyone, quite well.
Yeah, and you've got to take the rough with the smooth, and I think that, you know, if you don't have those bad times, it's hard to appreciate the good times.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think.
So now what have I got here? So this waste-free world that you talked about, I've seen a couple of little videos selling, what was it, cling film the other day, or trying to get rid of cling film. There was that wax paper and stuff like that. So it was my wife's birthday on the 10th, so just gone last week, and her brother's like vehemently vegan, didn't realise that he could eat sweets and stuff like that. So my daughter's sourced a load of vegan-friendly sweets. She sent that down, and he was over the moon, because he's just been eating lentils and chickpeas and stuff, and he's going, you know, proper depressed because he wants that sweet fix that he can't have. But we found him a bamboo toothbrush. So we sent him one of them down last week. So he's kind of like chuffed to bits, because he's as plastic free as obviously we try to be. But what I didn't know is how bad some of the plastics we do use are just not recyclable. So you like your razors, I'm like, flipping it. Clearly I don't use one at the minute, but I just don't get.
I mean, there's a whole world. Whole world plastic free. Like, I think that we were we were kind of, I don't know what right word is, but like in the 60s when like plastic came around, or 50s, you know, like we were kind of sold this amazing material which was so durable, which was cheap, and which basically worked for everything. And at that time, like we weren't, well, then we weren't told about like I say we, I definitely wasn't born then, but you know, we weren't told about the consequences. And now it's kind of been that period of time, and people can see that plastic still hasn't broken down, or if it does break down, it goes into like horrible, even this or worse pieces, that, you know, something's tried to be done about it. But it's changing a whole generation's mindset, a whole like world's mindset, and plastic, and how bad it is, and actually how much it affects the oceans and everything in it. So yeah, Way Through Wild was kind of set up because of that, really. And actually being able to dive in so many destinations around the world, you do see plastic in the ocean, and you do see it more in some places, less in some places, but you see it all the time. And you know, sometimes you just look at it and you just think, well, why did we have to use that? Like, there's a plastic bottle. Like, why did I have to use a plastic bottle when there's like a reusable bottle and toothbrushes? Like, there's actually, like, if you go on our Way Through World Instagram, there's a picture of a coral, and a plastic toothbrush is stuck in the coral. It's eroded into it. Yeah. And you think about like a coral, like a beautiful creature, it's been around for years and years, and then a plastic toothbrush and they somehow made its way into this coral, and it will probably live the rest of its life. And then so it's kind of just like opening up education and learning about the effects that plastics have, and when you do, as a consumer, when you do shop, to see if there is an alternative.
I think it's good. There's like scuba diving companies are out there. So let's take Fourth Element for instance, because they're probably at the forefront of it now. All the packaging, they've got this what's it called now? Scheme 2020 or something 2020 for this year anyway. Their hope is to get rid of every bit of plastic that's not recyclable from start to finish of their product, whether it be the packaging that it's sent out in, even the zips. I think they're trying to get, and I think that's a cracking example to set. It's just, I guess it's quite a hard thing for everyone to follow.
Well, I think it's hard if you are an established business. For instance, like if you're like an e-commerce business which is sending out stuff, and you've been doing it for 20 years, and you've been doing it in your plastic like poly bags, you know, like, and you've bought like 10,000 of these bags. Oh, that's a small amount if you're a big business, you know. And then for them, it's like, why would they then change to a material that's more expensive? Like, because that's what Fourth Element have done. Like, they're doing the plant-based materials, and they're more expensive, but they've taken that upon, they've absorbed that as a business because they want to be a good business. And I think if you start like that, then it is a lot easier. When we started Way Through Wild, and when we've got a Girls That Scuba shop as well, like, we just started plastic free, and then we don't know any difference, so it's very easy for us.
I think what brought it home to me was probably not your sort of stereotypical television programs, you know, like Blue Planet, and it was well before that. Do you know Bear Grylls, he did a couple of Survivor series where he puts a load of people on the island, and maybe he'll nip on once a week and tell them whatever's going on. But they were searching around the island for stuff that they could cook with or gather water with, and they'd gone not on the idyllic beach that they were set upon, you know, to give great scenes. They went on the other side of the island, and there was just crap everywhere in this bay. It just looked like someone had just tipped in a bin lorry into the sea there. It was horrendous, and I remember saying, I can't watch this, because it's almost like at the end they need to say, we've gone and done a bit of a clean-up here for using this island, and they didn't, and it kind of put me off, but made me more aware.
You don't want to accept it. No. You don't want to accept it, do you? And I think that's like when we were in Komodo National Park last year, and we were having an amazing liverboard, and, you know, diving in mantas and everything like that. And one day we went off to like one of the local islands and go for a walk, and it was covered in plastic. The shore was just full of like little microplastics, like plastics that had broken down, plastic bottles, and we were all just like, what the hell? Like, it's almost like you're sold this image of like Indonesia or like Komodo Islands as a diver, and you just think manta rays and like this beautiful scenery, and then you're going onto a beach and actually like everything is washed up along there, and we were all just like, what can we do? And, you know, we were there for like an hour, and like we could pick it up, but then when we get back on the boat, where do you put it? And it's a shame that it falls on us as individuals, as consumers, to stop using plastic, because it should be like the supermarkets and the people that are producing it to stop producing plastic. But we have to take responsibility as well.
Well, Ali went on a litter pick a couple of years ago. I was on my first expedition that I'd run through the military out to Malta. And in one of the bays there, we did a litter pick to sort of say, thanks for having us. But she did one locally, so sort of Southport's near us, so between sort of Liverpool and Blackpool sort of area. And she went on this beach litter pick thing, and they literally filled it like a carrier bag full of them, you know, the little cotton buds that you use for your ears?
Yeah.
Tons of them. It's like, how are they even getting in the sea? But I guess people are down the toilet and stuff, aren't they? And
yeah, put it down the toilet. But it's so simple because you can get bamboo cotton buds now. So it's like, I think it's just being aware of the alternatives. And individuals, you know, we have to do our part to make a difference.
I think the sort of proper alternatives, like that bamboo toothbrush and stuff, we picked that up months ago at somewhere like TK Maxx. So not in Boots or not in Tesco, that you think, you know, you could jump on that bandwagon and actually make a massive difference. I just happened to be in TK Maxx one day, probably in the queue, and they put a load of tat around this, you know, just crap that you can pick up, and it was there. And I thought Eddie would love that. I picked that up for him, and sure as hell, he did. He flipping loved it, because, you know, that's more so what he's about. But I can't see him. But
well, I know, and the problem is that like we're a tiny company. We've only been like it's just me that works there. Like I just set it up, and we have a shop manager that sends it off. So there's two of us, and we're only been established a year, so founded a year. And for us, like we can't buy in like 100,000 bamboo toothbrushes, so we can't buy them in for like 1 penny or whatever. But we have to buy them in at like 10 or 20 at a time. So unfortunately, it is that little bit more expensive as well. So if you were to find a bamboo toothbrush, like with us, it would be more expensive than it would be at Tesco's. But Tesco's have that power to buy in. They could buy them in for like maybe a plastic one's a penny, maybe the bamboo one's 2 penny or whatever. Like, but they don't. It's a shame.
Maybe we need to petition them. Maybe that's the next stage. But it'll be taking business away from you. You don't really not getting in the bread in. Oh my God. So
I don't mind.
So Girls That Scuba, the actual Facebook page, I've got it is down as 46,000 members. That's a flipping amount, that, isn't it? So you're doing quite well there. But obviously you're in different sort of you're on different forums as such, aren't you, like Instagram and whatnot, and YouTube's obviously picked up massively. So how does it feel to be an inspiration to so many people? Is it a bit of weight on your shoulders there, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it grew so much bigger and faster than I ever could have imagined. And you know, it really genuinely started as like kind of me wanting to find some more female friends and start a community. But I never would have envisioned that, like, you know, all of this and all of these numbers. I don't even want to look at the numbers sometimes. But it's massive pressure because I feel a responsibility to represent like not only a community but a gender. And of course I'm never gonna be perfect. I'm never gonna do stuff completely right, and I do make mistakes. And you know, so it's a huge amount of responsibility. But you know, I've always tried to say it's a community. It's not just me. Yeah, I founded it. I was the one that started it and keeps it going. But now it's all of us. And so yeah, I think that we all have a responsibility as female divers to represent each other well enough. But yeah, it's quite a big responsibility.
Do you get noticed a lot? Do you think, you know, when you're cutting around dive shows easy because you're there?
Dive shows,
but like when you're not, you know, when you're about on your travels and that, do you get noticed a bit, or is it still?
Yeah, sometimes. But I think also, like, I actually before I started Girls That Scuba, I had my own travel blog, and I kind of always had my own kind of, I've got my own Instagram and YouTube. Actually, my own YouTube has been around for a lot longer than our one. So yeah, sometimes. Yeah, and also like you make friends. Like before I started Girls That Scuba, when I was just a travel blogger, I made friends with loads of travel bloggers, and now some of them have got like millions of followers, and it's just like they're my mate. So sometimes people see like, oh my God, I saw you in Bloody Blah's like YouTube.
It's crazy how that YouTube community can just go nuts. I mean, like, I've seen people with like 10 million subscribers.
Yeah.
He'll never need to work again, him.
I know, but can you imagine the like pressure, like of having 10 million people watching you? Oh my gosh, like it's
when I started my own, the idea of even my wife listening to my voice, editing myself, or me in my garage making my first video, that was too much pressure.
I know.
So,
I don't even like listening to myself. Like, yeah, I know. I hate it. I still walk away to like do an Instagram and stuff.
So what would you suggest, if that's not it, what's your greatest achievement?
I think Girls That Scuba is my greatest achievement.
It's got to be,
sure. I mean, I have a chance to like really make a change and to kind of shape an industry to be more female friendly. And I think that, you know, as a woman, that's just amazing. It's a huge thing. So I'm very proud of it.
Good.
But I haven't really achieved anything else.
Well, how many countries have you been to? You must be getting on quite a few. Do you know?
Yeah. Maybe like 70.
Bloody hell.
70,
Well, I'd say that's a fair achievement. I've probably not been to. Yeah. I've probably not been to 7.
Yeah, but again, I think that came down to a lot of choices, and I have no money, so because I spent it all on travel. But it's worth it.
I'm really envious of people that's managed to have that kind of life that I kind of always wanted, because I got kind of tied in with the whole, you know, just the normal day to day, getting a job and having a family and getting married, and I don't regret what I've got now. I love my life, but I kind of think I wish I could travel more. But
you still come on, you still got a whole of your life ahead of you.
I can, but my work is really seasonal, so sort of from Easter through till late autumn, really, I am ridiculously busy with my normal day to day, which then gives me a really good life. But without that, I'd kind of struggle to maintain the life that I've got used to, you know, paying for a mortgage and having the stuff that I've got and doing whatever. So,
but I would say, like, you never know when life's going to change, definitely.
Yeah.
And you never know when, like, for instance, you were saying that you had like a trip with a Croatian, like, tourism board, like that's something that I'm sure you never would have imagined. So it's something, it starts and change can happen very, very quickly. So you never know what you've got.
Just got to keep going, haven't you? Get your head down and keep working and plodding away and trying to do something good and hope that karma will come back and give you something back.
Yeah, and I think keep being positive and happy and seeing the bright side of life.
Yeah.
It gets you, like, if you put that out into that atmosphere, the universe, like, it comes back to you.
I hope so. I'm due it. So your Instagram name is talking. You obviously coffee's in that name, innit? So are you a big coffee fan?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, there's nothing left in it. Look.
Oh, that's horrendous. Did you have like are you a proper coffee addict then? So have you got like a machine and all the rest of that?
Yeah. I'm like, I'm like reliant on it.
Yeah.
It's like it runs through me.
The reason I wanted to pick up on that, because it's kind of by the by, it's not really to do what we're talking about, but I was working with one of my mates, I was working at a friend's house with another mate of mine. We were doing some tree work for him. And they are both proper coffee snobs. Now, I just like tea. I love the smell of coffee. You know, if I could get an air freshener that just squirted out every 20 minutes, a coffee aroma, I'd be happy as Larry. I love that. But I just really can't get into drinking coffee. Now, maybe it's because my mum used to just have Nescafe and it tasted like crap. So I just love a good brew, you know, but I can't get into coffee. What do I need to do?
Don't worry about it.
Get a grip. Even don't worry. I'll get it. No, but I felt, you know, there's 3 grown blokes there just all chatting and I felt left out. They might as well be talking about football because I'm sat there going, I ain't got a clue what they're on about. I feel really left out. I want to join in this conversation, but I kind of can't.
I don't know. Do you drink? Do you drink alcohol?
Oh, yeah. I like a beer.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, it's almost like an alcohol buzz, but like in the morning. So you don't have to drink alcohol. You can have like a coffee. The feeling of it is good. Maybe have it with like load of milk and load of sugar.
Yeah.
And even like chocolate or something. But it's the buzz that it gives you. That's what I like.
So instead of having a can of Stella before I go to work, get a coffee.
Makes it more like socially acceptable, right?
Yeah. Nice. So what's the future hold? Short of lockdown, not really moving much at the minute. We're in a bit stalemate. What have you got planned?
I mean, I didn't mention, but we do trips for the Girls That Scuba. So we do international trips. We have 12 this year, like all around the world. So obviously most of them have been postponed. So really the future is like rescheduled trips and adding more trips. So the future is still a lot of travel for me personally.
Are you on all the trips yourself?
About 75% of them. Like I can't be now. Like this is the second year we've been doing them, and I have done like all but 2, I think.
Yeah.
But now it gets a bit much sometimes.
Vicky did mention she was supposed to go out to Jordan with you. I think it's early next year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, no, she's coming in October, so September. So hopefully it will still happen that one. But yeah, so Girls That Scuba, like we're still going to do a load of like trips and meetups and events all around the world.
That's cool.
And then I mean, there's so much. I mean, we've only been around 3 years, so it's kind of like we're still at the stage where like if you have an idea, like we're still rolling with it and we're seeing if it works. So there's so much. Just can't wait to be back diving. So you know, we can like that inspiration of actually being diving can kind of bring back up.
What is your feelings on the way that sort of COVID and the lockdown sort of period's been handled? Because you said in your blog about when you were in Jordan how sort of the cutthroat it was. You know, they're not letting anyone go anywhere. Our country let everyone in, didn't they? Still, people going back and forth.
It's crazy. Like I was I'm in touch with, because we do a lot of the trips out in Jordan, so I'm in touch with one of the guys over there, and he's like telling me today that it's like reopened for like around like people that live in Jordan, and like I think they had like 700 or 800 cases, and we had like I don't even know how many we've had
a day. Like, we had that many deaths a day, didn't we?
And that's deaths. This is cases. They had like I think 14 deaths, and the reason they did is because they literally shut it down as soon as it happened. They were like no movement between borders. So I think every country dealt with it differently, and it's a shame, you know, that there wasn't like this blanket rule. But it's going to take a long time because, you know, like Jordan's open, but what if they don't let people from the UK come in?
I got invited today to another trip in the Red Sea this September, and I'm like, mate, I don't even know if we're allowed.
I don't know. Yeah, exactly.
I wish it was.
We just don't know, do we? Right. I mean, just. Yeah, all I keep thinking is that at one point in life, this is all going to be over and it's all going to be like a memory.
Absolutely. Well, we're just going to, like all the inland sites that are opening at the minute, we're just going to not go because you mixing with more people, aren't you? And the chances are it's going to be more and more. So we're just waiting. We're not too far from North Wales, and we like diving around that area, and you can do it from the coast. So I think we'll just wait till that opens and it'll be safe, aren't we? We've waited a couple of months, we may as well wait another couple of months, haven't we?
Right, exactly.
So what have you got planned for tonight? You had dinner?
I'm gonna do a workout. I've got like I've got my workout gear on. I just put that. But I'll work out. I eat late, and I always do a workout late as well. So I work out, then I eat, and then. Nice
one. Well, enjoy your workout, and I'll.
Thank you.
Fingers crossed. I'll speak to you again, and probably see you around somewhere, and be in touch.
Awesome.
Nice one. Thanks for your time, mate.
Bye,
see you later.
No worries.
That brings to an end episode 12 with Sarah Richard. Links to all the things we discussed are in the podcast notes. My guest on episode 13 is David Diley, a lover of sharks since an early age who has developed this into a fantastic career as an innovative filmmaker. You've been listening to Are You a Scuba Diver? Fancy a Brew podcast with me, Andy the Northern Diver. You can find more scuba related content on my YouTube channel, and the link is in the podcast notes. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing and leaving us a 5-star review. If there's someone or something you'd like to discuss, then let us know it on our Facebook page. Thanks for listening. See you on the next one.